Living in middle-class suburbia, we sometimes forget the realness of poverty. As we go on with our lives, tens of millions of people live and work and grow up in what the government considers poverty. This is an issue of great importance because no other issue, if resolved entirely, would have as immediate and personal of an impact on the lives of the people of our country. But how do we combat this enemy, which controls 40 million of our people today? In 1964, President Lyndon Johnson declared a war on poverty. Programs like Medicare and the food stamps were created by Congress and eventually helped reduce poverty from 19 to 11% in the years to follow. Despite these early successes, more people than ever before are living in poverty today, and for the past 2 years, the amount of people has grown. In 2007, the number was 37.3 million people. In 2008, 39.8. There is a problem, and it needs to be fixed. With that said, our country is suffering an economic recession that's considered the worst since the Great Depression. We are fighting two different wars where an end is not near in sight. Congress is amidst a heated debate over the future of our health care. $800 billion was just spent to bail out struggling businesses on Wall Street. As a nation already deeply in debt, our biggest problem is money and the lack thereof. Our government does not have the ability to deal with each of these issues by just increasing the funds given to them. Resolve that the United States federal government should substantially increase social services to all United States citizens in poverty. Substantially increase social services, aside from its alliteration, means to provide financial assistance to the programs which our government provides for the people living in poverty. Substantially increase means to spend money. We would like to make it clear that there is no other way we can increase a social service, let alone do it substantially, than by doing so with money. Living in poverty is defined by a person who earns less than $10,830 per year. A family of four is considered poor if its income is less than $22,050 per year. Let's say we do enact a substantial increase in our social services, on which we spend $789 billion a year already. Is 10% or $80 billion a substantial increase? And is it going to be enough for us to see some positive change? Maybe more will be needed, and we need to double the percentage to almost $160 billion. Let's not forget that our country is $12 trillion in debt. Let's not forget that the majority of our nation is calling for health care coverage for all 308 million United States citizens, not just the poor. Let's not forget that hundreds of billions of dollars are being spent on multiple wars in the Middle East. To ask for a substantial increase on top of $789 billion is not a feasible option and should not be considered so. Putting more money into our current welfare system, one of the major social services, will inevitably lead to more dependence on welfare because of the greater number of people covered by it. Dr. June O'Neill and Ann Hill compared children of relatively equal social and economic backgrounds and found that, quote, the more years a child spent on welfare, the lower the child's IQ. The authors make it clear that it is not poverty but welfare itself which has a damaging effect on the child, end quote. Another study conducted by the University of Michigan compared families with almost identical non-welfare incomes, where all welfare checks were supplemental to the family's income. The study, like the one previously mentioned, focused on the effects on children. It suggested that, quote, an increase of $1,000 per year in welfare received by a family decreased a boy of that family's future earnings by as much as 10%. Already our government is increasing the amount of money spent on welfare. Although the total amount of federal spending is expected to decrease in 2010, the annual money spent on welfare is going to increase by 26%. $25 billion more for welfare. From 2007 until 2009, the amount of money for welfare has grown by 55%, from $254 billion spent in 2007 to $395 billion spent in 2009, and the number will grow. It is clear that the answer to fixing welfare is not by substantially increasing its funds on top of the already in existence increase. Poverty will always be a member of our society. It is like crime, in that it is understood that it will always be there, but the goal is to keep it as low as possible. There are times, though, when it is not possible to find this solution through substantially increasing, or money in disguise, social services because of the other engagements which bar the financial capabilities of our government. We would all like to see the number 40 million diminish, but we would like even more to not see our country push further and further and further into the red. Vote negative.